Hey everybody, we're back with No Off Season, episode 3. Today we are joined by an MMA veteran. We have Heather Joe Clark. Heather, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Pretty good. The first thing that I want to talk about right away is California,
Oh,
because I believe you are born and raised, right?
yes.
So tell me about your overall thoughts of California, and what your upbringing was like there.
So I lived in California until junior high, and then I moved away for a couple of years, then I came back. But the town that I grew up in through like my elementary school was called a town was a town called Thousand Oaks, which is in Ventura County, so it's a little bit north of LA County, and
Mhm.
it was predominantly, very you know, Caucasian, not a lot of diversity, even being so close to LA. It really was, you know, very kind of Caucasian based town. And then as I actually after sixth grade, I moved to North Dakota for a couple years and lived
Whoa.
there, small town. And then when I moved back to LA, I moved with my mom, and I was living in San Fernando Valley. So again, way all diverse. I was a minority in my high school actually. So yeah, it was great. I really enjoy kind of being in the Mecca, growing up with a lot of different nationalities and races and cultures and stuff. A lot of my friends in high school were Hispanic, for some reason, and so I got to like learn a lot about that Hispanic culture. Being in LA, it's very prominent. um, but yeah, it was great. I like LA for that diversity. I like being able to go to the beach, to school and go to the beach. I was a bad kid. Uh, but yeah, now it's overcrowded. It's the traffic's horrible. The smog is horrible. Um, so it's like unless you really need to be there for a specific reason, it's just kind of really not the best place to be because of all that. It's definitely changed over the last 20 years, just growing immensely. But there's a lot of really great things about it. I have a bachelor's in theater, and so it was great for me for that because I could do the acting thing, and I had a wonderful teachers there, that were in the film industry, and so it was great. For what I wanted to do when I first started college, I was in Minnesota, and I couldn't see myself getting a theater degree in Minnesota because it wasn't, that type of thing. But when I moved back to LA and did it, it was great. I had remarkable professors and people that were really in the game. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about California. It's home. I love going back and training out there too. I Some of my home gyms are, Hayastan with GoCore and Jean LaBelle and Benny the Jet. And then I'll go train jujitsu at 10th Planet HQ with Eddie. Those are kind of like my home bases out there.
Eddie Bravo for everyone that's doesn't
Yeah.
just know him by Eddie, right?
Yes.
Um, Adding on to that California upbringing, one of the things that I usually like to ask people from California or that Valley area or even LA, when you were in school, were you in school with anybody that's kind of like in entertainment now or professional athletes these days, like any notable athletes?
Um, I went to school with Wilmer Valderrama,
Wow.
who is one of my good friends. Yeah. So we used to have theater. We had theater classes together and stuff before he hit it big. So we're still friends. I see him every once in a while if I'm back in LA. But we were pretty close in high school. Who
That was the
else?
guy that had the show with the mom jokes, right? The like your mama jokes or
Oh
something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, he did that. But he's best known for his first
The
big break
70s
with
show, right?
what?
That 70s show, was he on that?
So yes, he was Fez.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, foreign exchange student. That's what Fez stood to stand. But yeah, so I know him really well. And then, I guess he was probably the only one in high school or that I kind of grew up with. Thinking about professional athletes. Um, it's funny. Like a few years ago, when I had moved back to LA, I'd gotten no surgery after my last UFC fight with Alexa Grasso, and I moved back to LA for a year, and I started working at a gym called Unbreakable. and it's
I
owned
know
by
about that, Jim.
Baker and Randy Couture, and it's filled with athletes, professional athletes, and celebrities. And
Yeah.
so one of the guys there was he had played, I think, one season pro football, and he went to Taft. He went to my high school, but now he's Jake Paul, not Jake Paul, the other one.
Logan Paul?
No, it is Jake Paul. He's Jake Paul's personal trainer. Like he's, gets him ready and stuff,
Hmm.
lifting and running and all that stuff. So he's not his boxing trainer, but he's his personal trainer.
Yeah.
So he did go to my high school, which I was just thinking of. But yeah, I mean, over the years of living out there, you definitely get to know a lot of celebrities and athletes. One of the funniest stories of Unbreakable, we had a bunch of rookies come in, NFL rookies, and I was training with them, like training next to them. And then I would help maybe hold pads or help them with some of the striking stuff. But one day I was trying to get to know everybody and ask them where they played and stuff. And so I go up to this one guy, and he looks a little older, but I was like, "Where do you play?" And he just looks at me and laughs. And then that guy that I was just telling you about, which I'm totally forgetting his name right now, brain farting, but he's like, "You don't know who that is?" And I'm like, "No, it was Terrell Owens."
Oh, T.O.
So I don't watch football, so like, I don't know, but I know I've heard the name, and yeah, he just laughed at me, and I was like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't think he's a Valley guy, but I think he did a lot of training out there for football when he played for the 49ers,
Yeah, and he lives in LA, lives in Hollywood or around there. So
somewhere like that.
yeah, he was training at Unbreakable. He was pretty impressive athlete, even retired. Yeah, he would.
Even even still today, I believe he runs like a 4.6 or like a 4.7 40-yard dash or something like that, like still even today.
And
But
football wasn't even his like thing. Like
yeah.
he's a basketball player, and he
Mhm.
just did football because they needed a football player. It's like, wow.
Yeah, and then he just turned into a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Another thing about California, LA, most people when they think about that area, it's almost sort of recognized as one of the bigger vegan capital spots in the United States.
Mhm.
And I think you're vegan, right? You're vegan.
Yep.
What is your favorite vegan place in
It's so
LA?
funny. He brought it up. I didn't. No, I'm just kidding. One of my favorite vegan spots in LA. There's this Mexican spot called Next Mex in Hollywood, and it's right next to Doomy's, another vegan spot, and it's in Hollywood, and they just have real authentic Mexican food, but it's vegan. That's one of my favorites. Let me think. What else? What else? Mm-mm. There's always like good Thai vegan spots. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's been about a year since I've been back, so nothing's coming to mind. But more and more are popping up every single day. And I think probably when I lived there, like not vegan spots, but there's this place in Van Nuys. Was living in Van Nuys before I moved here, and they have this Israeli spot on Hazeltine and like Van Owen or something like that. And it's not a vegan spot, but they have vegan food, and they have the best falafel I've ever had. That's just
That's
my
big claims right there.
it's really good. Uh,
Best ever.
Best ever. Yeah.
All right. We'll have to look them up and see if we can hold them to that. With that being said, though, so since we've talked so much about California, if you were going to take me there and we had 24 hours to do anything that we could do,
Uh-huh.
what would our day in California be? Where would you take me? What would you do?
The beach. Yeah, maybe Venice Beach, right? It's crazy. It's a great spot to just check out like the culture, and um it's just one of those iconic places to go. Santa Monica Beach, Venice Beach, which are right next to each other. Let's see what else. Downtown LA's got some really cool spots now. It used to be, really bad, but now they've really like cleaned it up. It's nice. They have some cool spots, some good restaurants. I'd probably take you to a gym. I'd probably take you down to Hyastan, introduce you to Gene LaBelle. That guy is a riot. He could talk all day, and he's like 80 something, and he's got stories in high school about like people he remembers and stuff. It's amazing. The guy has really sharp mind. And then Benny the Jet as well, one of my favorite people out there. So he has just an amazing spirit and stories to tell as well. He was on the Elvis Presley team that Elvis used to take a bunch of guys around the world to fight no holds barred,
Yeah.
and Benny was one of those guys. So he's got quite a story. And Gokor too. Gokor was on the national judo team with Ronda Rousey's mom.
Wow.
And so he's got a lot of really cool stuff, and he's a badass on the ground as well, and judo too. So I take you over there, maybe buy Eddie Bravos and let you
Oh
hear
man.
series. Um, that's always fun. And yeah, I don't know, maybe what else? I
You
think just
surf or anything like that?
I do surf, but I don't like surfing in LA because the water's usually really dirty and cold. So if I'm gonna surf, I like to surf in warm water. Like not grew up, but I learned to surf in Maui, and so I'm kind of, a little bit spoiled.
Yeah. All right, so let's hop into some of the things that I've found while I scrolled through your Instagram.
Cool.
So one of the top things that I found scrolling through your Instagram was it says that you were taking part of a stem cell program, FDA approved, about, was that brain trauma?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So I found out about this guy, one of our students here at 10th Planet, Denver, told me about a study that they're doing with 20 athletes, professional athletes of all types. And they're doing this stem cell study to help, brain trauma, concussion symptoms, all, it's kind of under all that thing. It's very hard to diagnose a brain trauma or concussion symptoms. It's all over the board. Been dealing with this stuff for almost 3 years now, and I've tried so many different things, from psychedelics to I just did this thing called MERT, which is like a magnetic electro something. It was like, it felt like a TENS unit on my head.
Mhm.
Did that. Now I'm doing neurofeedback. And nothing's really helped tremendously, but I've heard a lot about stem cells, heard a lot of great things about stem cells for like joints and things like that, but not really for the brain. So when I heard about this, I was really interested. And so I contacted them. I got the last spot. I was like the 20th person.
Wow.
And the whole thing is I had to get myself down to San Diego twice. So the first time I went down, they did a bunch of testing, MRI, neurological testing, blood work, things like that. When that came back, then I went back out there and they did liposuction on right under my belly button, through my belly button. And that was how they basically are taking the fat, and then they're going to spin that into the stem cells.
Oh, okay.
So that was really painful. That sucked a lot.
What was that first thing you described? You said they stuck something on your forehead?
Oh, the MERT.
Yeah.
Let me look at I want to tell you the name of it. Sorry, I should have had this up, but MERT peak performance. So it is magnetic resonance therapy. It's similar to TMS, if anyone knows what that is, but basically their whole idea is they do a QEEG to see kind of where my brain waves are. And I have a lot of, and I'm going to say this doesn't make any sense to you, but maybe someone watching might know more about the brain. I still boggles my mind. I still don't really get it, but we have like different waves. We have beta waves, theta, alpha, and beta, theta, alpha.
Some other Greek letter.
And
Some other Greek letter.
yeah. But so my brain is stuck in this high beta, which is where you want to be when you're fighting. And my brain won't go out of that. Yeah.
Your brain just stays there all the time?
It's there. Yeah. And so it causes a lot of anxiety. It causes, my inability to think clearly. I could fight okay, but in terms of like just doing things other than that, it's difficult. So this has been more explained to me while I've been doing this neurofeedback, because neurofeedback, you actually have like electrodes on your head, a couple, and they're not putting anything to you. So the MERT, I was actually getting stimulation to try to change these ways. The neurofeedback, they actually have like you're watching like a Netflix show, and they have like noises in your headphones that are like rewards to your brain when it's doing what they're asking it to do.
Hmm.
And somehow that changes things. So I've only done like 5 sessions now, and you know what? It's hard to tell. Like, I don't know. I do feel like I've been a little bit clearer headed the last couple days, after doing 2 sessions this week. So I feel hopeful about it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I know
Yeah.
the psychedelics were another thing that you mentioned. I know fighters in the past, like Ian McCall, have talked about the benefits of the psychedelics when it comes to brain trauma. And you said maybe it didn't really work for you as much, but what was the overall effect for you trying that process?
Gosh, you know what? I mean, it definitely had its play in my life in terms of what it's done. Yeah, I went into everything for healing. First thing I did was psilocybin, which I've done mushrooms when I was, throughout my life, and more just kind of socially when I was younger, and then more recently, yeah, for more like emotional healing and stuff like that. Before I found out that it was helpful for the brain. And again, it helps me. I always feel very connected. I always feel oneness while I'm on mushrooms. So it's really great. But then it actually would give me a headache. So I would come off of a couple gram trip, and I would get a migraine for like a week straight, like literally nonstop. And so
Wow.
it was really hard for me to want to do that. Even though it was great while I was on it, it was like, it just gave me these rebound headaches. And then I did ayahuasca a few times, and I had some really great realizations and some visions and things like that. One of them was to start a women's program here at my gym. Another one was, kind of how to help me put myself first, and my health, and my self, like I put everyone else and my dog and stuff like that. So some really great stuff, but again, no difference in health. Then I did this huge thing called ibogaine. So ibogaine is known as a shrub in Africa, and known to be like a what's the word, like when coming of age
Yeah.
ceremony in Africa. It lasts for like a couple days, but then they have a different form of ibogaine that they use, not in the United States because it's illegal. I had to go to Mexico to do it, and that whole thing was crazy. So they have to do a EKG on your heart to make sure your heart's okay. Then they hook you up to a EKG monitor the whole night you're doing it. They
Hmm.
have an IV stuck into your arm, like a lead, just in case they need to pump you with something because your heart stops. Like, it's
Oh my
serious shit.
goodness.
Yes. So then, like, you take it in pill form, and they gave me a lot because they want, the whole idea is to reset your brain, right? And they knew that I had a lot of concussions and that I needed a reset. I did it with several veterans, and my boyfriend. So you lay down, and then you start tripping. You start having visions. It's not like ayahuasca visions. It's more like you're watching like a movie.
Hmm.
And then I started throwing up, and I literally threw up for 12 hours straight. And then they gave me some IV like nausea medicine, but it was horrible. It was it was so bad. Like, I didn't get any relief after that. Um, but I did have some good moments in that. Like, I saw some things, and then a couple days later, I did DMT, or toad, which is 5-MeO DMT.
Yeah.
So it's taken from a toad, and you smoke
Hmm.
it, and that was really profound as well. It was like I felt like I kind of died and came back, and just like experienced some releases, some real traumatic releases. And yeah, it was great. But again, no, it didn't like help my head, and still was getting migraines, still all the symptoms were there. But I say these things, and it didn't help me in health, but I've seen it help other people. I've seen guys with concussions, or talking about it with concussion symptoms, and then they go do ayahuasca and they're fucking healed. So like, my journey is different than everyone else's. There's a reason why I've been given this. There's a reason why I'm here talking to you about it. There's all that. And it's like, I just take it for what it what it was and what it gave me, and for that journey. But yeah, it didn't personally help me there in
I
that way.
was I was listening to Mike Tyson when he was talking about this with Oscar De La Hoya,
Yeah.
and De La Hoya said that each time that he tried it, he would have a shaman in place to make sure that the area, I guess, was appropriate for usage.
Sure.
Did you have that as well?
So in the ayahuasca ceremonies, yes, we had a shaman. She was holding the space. She's the one that sings the Icaros and plays the different instruments and stuff like that. Amazing woman, that I did it with, both retreats. And then the ibogaine, so I didn't have a shaman, but I had this woman that was like an angel there with me, and she's a nurse, she was taking care of me the whole time, and it was she held the space. That woman was, and she was there when I did the toad. And when I did the toad, I was crying, and this woman was like there. She had her hand on me. She was just like the mother I never had. To say that my mom wasn't a great mom. I just mean in that situation, like my mom wasn't there, and she was my mom at that time, and really amazing. So I couldn't ask for, I like literally like throwing up, and so she was like there with me, putting cloths on my head, helping me to the bathroom, like just everything I needed, I was taken care of. So she definitely created that safe space and that like ability for me. So when she held me in the ibogaine ceremony, that's what gave me the comfort to do the toad. Like I don't think if I would have had that, if she would have not held me in that space when I did the ibogaine, I would have been a lot more scared. But I
Yeah.
knew like she's there, I got this. Like I'm just gonna surrender. So certainly important, like where you do these things, who you do them with, all that is really important. Yeah.
So overall, would you say, if you were to recommend the psychedelics to other fighters that are maybe experiencing, um, concussions or symptoms like that, you would definitely recommend that they go about it in spaces like that where there's
Yeah.
like a shaman and there's
Yes, definitely.
everything.
Reach out to me if you don't know, and I'll help you find somewhere good to go. Um, Psilocybin's a great place to start. I would definitely recommend that as a beginning. And there's a company out here, one of my friends, Dell, owns, called Unlimited Sciences, and they're actually doing a psilocybin study right now. So if you are going to do it, reach out to them. They'll send you some surveys and stuff like that. They actually do pre-surveys before you do it, and then after as well. And so that's really helpful, to get this kind of information back, so people can understand how much it really is healing the world.
All right. So
Yeah,
now let's skate away from some of the psychedelic stuff and get into photography.
got it.
So you are a photographer. This is information that I just found out today. So tell me about life as a professional photographer.
Well, it's been a few years since I was, shooting full time, but I used to, when I first started, I started in Maui, and I used to do surf photography and like a surf school photography. And I would do portraits on the beach, family portraits, things like that. So that's where I started. And then moved back to LA, started doing weddings, events, bar mitzvahs, that kind of stuff. And then started learning the studio photography. And I would do assisting work for people, and then that's kind of how I learned my craft, was assisting with other professionals. Never went to school for it. And then I would do, on like my spare time, I lived downtown, and I had a loft, and it would just like that, a lot of my friends were actors and models, and so we would just, on a Friday night, that's what we do. We'd have fun shooting.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I learned. And then after LA, I moved to Albuquerque to train at Jackson Winks. And when I was down there, I worked at a portrait studio, and I worked there 30 hours a week, and we mostly did families, senior portraits, all that kind of stuff. and I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. And I'd always get all the Jackson Link fighters in. We had like Monday, Tuesdays were closed, so they gave me the keys to the studio, and I'd bring them in and I have some really cool portraits of like Holly Holm and John Dotson and stuff like that on my website that are really cool, original, from before they were in the UFC.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And then after that, I started doing more like boudoir photography. So boudoir means like bedroom, so lingerie, nude, but also like very sensual and not playboy style, but like very low lighting and just kind of very pretty, very elegant type photos. So I did that for a while, really enjoyed that. I felt like a lot of the women that would come in so nervous and scared, and they would leave just feeling really confident in themselves. And that was really nice. I feel like to be able to give women these amazing pictures of themselves and see how beautiful they really were was really, it was great feeling for me. So that was something I did for a little bit, and then continued to do again, like throughout my fighting career, I would just kind of get called to do different types of portrait photography and stuff. I never really did too much landscape. However, when I lived in Maui, I did so many sunset photos and things like that. Really love sunsets. So I have thousands of those. But like mostly just portrait and events.
Have any MMA organizations ever reached out to you to shoot events?
No, I've done a couple back in the day when I first started doing MMA, but yeah, not so much. That's a hard job because you gotta like shoot through the cage or through the ring and stuff. It's difficult. If you know, it'd be fun. And I feel like obviously I'm good at it because I would know when to like shoot it and like when the action's gonna happen. But it's also like it's tiring, like having to like deal with that focus in the cage. You can't really, depending on the promotion, you can't really necessarily be right in there to like get in between it. Um, so I don't know. Yeah, I haven't really pushed that too much.
Well, shouts out to Esther Lynn then, because I guess
Yeah, she's
she's
great.
the top dog when it comes to doing stuff like that.
Yeah, her and Tracy Lee used to be really awesome too. Yeah.
All right, so now let's get into some of the THM fan burning questions. So these are questions that fans have for you.
Okay.
All right, number one, you are a part of one of the most legendary Ultimate Fighter casts ever. That featured a lot of different girls, still prominent members, big time players that are still fighting right now. What do you recall from your experiences in the house?
Oh,
There's a follow-up question to this that maybe I should have asked you first.
you want to say it?
Yes.
Okay.
So I would say your overall TV portrayal on the show might have been a little skewed.
Yeah.
It looked like um, it was kind of framed to make you the bad guy.
Yeah.
Do you feel like any of that negative energy toward you was just kind of put on you just by like maybe the way that you were portrayed on the show was negative when that wasn't really the case?
Yeah, I think, and as you watch the show, I think that kind of comes out. At first, they try to say that it was like, I was just, this bitch or like whatever, so that I warranted their behavior to me. I think that's how they wanted to sell the show because the mean girl's behavior was so bad. There had to be a reason for it, but really there was no reason for it. Yes, they were worried about me and worried about me beating them, and so they wanted to break me down any way they could. I came into that so confident. I was working with Benny the Jet. I was working with my coach Robert Follis, Misha Tate. My grappling, my striking, like going into that show, I was unstoppable. There was nothing that was going to stop me except for maybe an ACL tear,
Yeah.
uh, which happened. But it didn't matter how crazy they were. I was able to like turn my cheek and really kind of hold myself professionally. I don't know how I did it honestly, but I had my good friend Tisha Torres now. She was there with me and she was very helpful, and a couple other girls. It was great. We would play cards with like JoJo and Randa and Alex Chambers. Tisha was a part of that. I'm trying to think who else.
I know Esparza was there,
Carly, yeah,
Panay.
yeah. So that those girls were all like the mean girls, right? And then there was like us.
I believe Angela Hill was on that one, right?
Yes, yep. And Tisha's about to go whoop her ass again.
Who else was on there? Beck Rawlings.
Yep, they were all mean girls. You don't have to say anymore. It's like
I was gonna say I can't really. I'm trying to remember who
you
they
don't
were
need
off the top of
to.
my
They're
head.
mentioning.
So
But yeah,
overall,
it was really hard. It was hard. It was hard to keep my mouth shut. It was like nails on a chalkboard. I wanted to fucking kill those girls. And that's
yeah,
why I fought Beck with a torn ACL, because I knew I was that much better. I knew I could beat her. And if I would have had a little bit more time to prepare with a torn ACL against Felice, I know I would have beat her. But again, I had no stability, I had nothing, you know?
yeah.
But
So would you say that maybe the energy that you have towards them is still the same today, or have any of them ever tried to like reach out and say, hey, look, maybe I was a little rough on you on the shows, my bad.
Rose Namajunas did do that. Like, so we aired the show in September, and that December, she texted me on New Year's or something saying she was sorry. She didn't realize how much, of a bitch she was or something like that. And we've been friends since. So she's come out when I lived in Vegas. She came out and trained with me. She's come to my gym a few times and trained with me. She trains regularly with Tisha. So yeah, we're definitely on a different level than we were on that show. She's grown up a lot. Anyone else? I mean, again, I'm cool with JoJo. The girls I was cool with, I'm still cool with. And then the girls that I wasn't cool with, I've seen Beck a couple times and she was cordial. Um, but yeah, Angela Magana can stuff it. Angela Hill, not a big fan. I really loved her to get knocked out this coming fight. Let's see who else. Yeah, the rest of Jessica Penny was just a total bitch and still is. Anytime I've come around her or whatever, yeah, she still has just that bitchiness. So, and Felice too, there's no reason. Which that whole thing, I tore my ACL and oh, that's just an excuse, blah blah blah. And then when she tore hers, she was on crutches and shit. It's like, get out of here.
That was going to be the next question.
Go ahead. Yes, this is going to be a Felice question.
Nah, well, I mean, you pretty much answered it already, because basically on the show they were making it seem like you didn't really have any knee issues, but it seemed like, I mean, obviously that you did. So yeah, but
yeah, I was trying to not act like I had any knee issues. It's like I knew what I could do and what I couldn't do, right? And it's like I have to feel what my body feels like. And it was like, yeah, they can sit there and say, oh, I was scared to train with them, which is crazy because I trained with Julie Kedzie, Michelle Watterson, Holly Holm growing up, and then Misha Tate. And it's like, what are you girls going to bring that these girls didn't? You know what I mean? So it's like my whole career, I trained with the best. And that's why I felt like I was the best at that time. So yeah, they were just immature. They were, they want to bring my light down. They didn't like the shine that I had going.
And the last question about the Tough House.
Yes, thank you.
What was it like working with Roger Mayweather?
Oh, well, he wasn't a part of the Ultimate Fighter.
Well, I thought that there was a clip when he was like doing pad work with you guys.
That was before the Ultimate Fighter, I think, when I first moved to Vegas.
Oh, okay.
Who brought me there? I can't remember who brought me there, but yeah, I ended up working with him. He did. It was cool. I mean, I don't even remember. I remember it, but I don't remember anything I learned specifically. Nothing like stood out. It was just a experience.
And Floyd wasn't there?
Floyd wasn't there, no.
Okay. So now we're going to move into our last segment.
Okay.
These are the top Google searches. So these are the questions that come up when I search your name.
Oh, geez.
The first thing when you type in Heather Jo Clark on Google is Heather Jo Clark versus Beck Rawlings. What is your recollection of that fight from 2014?
Oh, man. I mean, I went into it with a torn ACL. So I knew that there was only certain things I could do. couldn't leg kick, couldn't really kick with my right leg because I would, lose everything, balance everything. So, going into that fight, it was really emotional. My dad didn't want me to take the fight. He didn't want me to end up hurting my knee more than I'd already was. I didn't have any torn meniscus at that time, so there was that risk of tearing my meniscus while training with a torn ACL. So, I went into it a little timid. And then my coach at the time, Robert Follis, said, Heather, we got to either go or we got to pull out. Like there's no half-assing this. Like, yes, we got to work around it in terms of what we can and can't do. But in terms of what we can do, we got to go hard and we got to find out where we're going to, fall. And his ability to coach me through that was a remarkable thing. His brother committed suicide at the same time and of that camp, and so he was
Wow.
struggling with a lot of really, really strong emotions. And so, after that fight, well, I get in the cage, mind you. I was so focused, I was so ready. I didn't even remember Bruce Buffer announcing me. Like afterwards, I'm like, Dad, why didn't Bruce announce me? He's like, he did. I swear I didn't even remember. I was so focused, laser sharp focus. And after the fight, getting in the back and giving Robert that hug and crying with him is just a memory that I'll never forget.
And do you remember what you did to celebrate after that fight?
Yeah, actually, Tisha and I went to there was a club upstairs at the Palms. So we went up and danced a little bit with my big old black
Yeah, I
eye.
was gonna say you had the black
Yeah,
eye.
yeah, it was pretty bad, but didn't matter. I won. I felt like I did a pretty good performance on the ground. I should have finished her, but everything that I had really been working on like came out in that fight. Yeah, it was probably my favorite fight to win, just considering all the different things and adversities going into it.
Our second Google search is Heather Jo Clark, actress,
Huh.
season 2, Kingdom.
Yeah, that was
How did
fun.
that come about?
Joe Stevenson hired me. So Joe Daddy and I trained together at Jackson's for many years. His ex-wife Maia and I actually have a boxing fight against each other. Um, so I've just kind of seen Joe in and out like throughout my career. And yeah, he reached out to me and asked me if I'd do it. And I was stoked because I do have a theater degree, and that was something that I was really hoping MMA would kind of facilitate. So when he called me, I was like, hell yeah. And it just had my ACL surgery like 6 months prior. So I wasn't training fully. But I was like, I can do this. It's not like it's a real fight. We worked around it, and I went out to LA. I was living in Vegas at the time. So went out to LA for a week, and you do like week of rehearsing, and then, shoot day, was quite the task, how they shoot it. So it'd be like, there's 2 rounds in the fight. I get TKO'd in the second, and it would be like round 1, round 2, round 1, round 2, round 1. So it wasn't like,
Oh, so you had
they
to fight the same
they
fight
want,
multiple different times.
yeah, and they get different camera angles, right? And so, like, my hair, it's really funny. Jason Herzog was the ref for it. And Jason, the whole time, made sure my shorts were in place, my bra looked good, my hair looked good. He was like my style. He's so, he was really fun to work with. But it was the next day, I felt like I had fought 10 times. Like I
Wow.
did. Yeah, it was quite, because you're whiplashing yourself and taking shit, and it was this a long day. And yeah, I really respect stunt people, because it is not easy. It's way harder to mimic a fight than it is to actually fight, I think.
Is that
But
something that
in its
you would
way,
want to continue doing maybe, or
I would
was
love
it
to.
have
Yeah,
fun while it lasted type thing?
I'd love to. I'm living in Denver now, so the opportunities are less. But yeah, if someone were to call me and ask me to go do that, I mean, that's a dream. I love it. I love working on set. I love acting and all that. And I've thought about maybe doing some theater and stuff out here. My boyfriend Connor's dad does some acting and stuff in some of the small theaters in Boulder, so I've thought about maybe doing that. Just just time wise, it's been kind of not possible, but maybe one day.
And the last search is Heather Jo Clark, next opponent.
My next opponent is myself, always, right? Like fighting the battle between, like what's next. So really, I officially retired a few months ago on Adam Hunter's podcast. And it's something that was really hard for me to do. It was not, never wanted to like actually believe that I wasn't going to get better. And I believe I still can get better. I still believe I am healing every day with my brain, but I'm 40 and
Yeah,
yeah, it's like to take the chance to put myself backwards and with my brain. It was like, if it's my knee, it's like, I can, whatever, I can get a new knee, or
yeah,
something like that. But with my brain, it's just something that I'm not willing to deal with, what could happen.
yeah.
Even like my last fight, I could have, my doctor told me that the plate in my eye could, if that were to get lodged, I could get blind. And it was like, all right, I'm down like with that risk. But like the risk of not being able to talk and do anything is just not worth it. So just coaching now, coaching full time. I've had the honor and privilege of helping Tisha Torres with her upcoming fight and helping her with her jujitsu. So that's been really, really cool. And I'm really thankful that she's put that faith in me to do that. And so I will be going and cornering her in a couple weeks in Houston. And I'm really excited about that. And again, I feel really honored. And this is kind of, I was talking to my coach, Chris Luttrell, the other day about how I was a pioneer in this sport as a woman fighter. And now I feel like I'm a pioneer as a woman coach. And, there's not a lot of women coaches out there. There are some, but it's just, so I want to prove to the world, like I have guys that I coach and, they all believe that I know what I'm doing and they ask me questions. And then when it comes to cornering, they're like, all right, Connor, come corner, so it's like this stigma. And I'm hoping that I can change that. I hope that, guys are going to feel, not all guys, I do have an amateur fighter I corner and stuff like that, but I still think it's hard to take a woman as a guy as serious as another guy. It's just that cultural thing, so I'm really hoping to put myself on the map and this fight with Tisha and continue with other fighters and just show the world that, I know a lot and that I dedicated and I sacrificed everything in my life to be the best MMA fighter I could be. And I studied with the best coaches and I went to the best gyms with the best training partners that pushed me to my limit. And I don't know, I was thinking about it today, I was like, damn, but I remember so much. I'm really proud of myself, that I've been able to keep the details and remember the stuff that I've learned and now pass that on. So I feel really grateful that my brain's still working in that way and that I can pass on all those things. And that makes me feel a lot better retiring, right? Like it's not like I did it all for nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have our last two questions.
Cool.
Second to last question is, did you want to take a chance to plug maybe your photography website or where people can find you or maybe even book you?
Yeah. So photography website is hjcphotography.net. I know it's kind of long. hjcphotography.net.
We'll put something above our head. They'll see it.
Perfect. Great.
And my last question. Who is the next fighter that you want to see on this show? But the caveat is you have to help me get them on here.
Okay. I'd like to see my partner, my boyfriend, my love, Connor Hune. I'd like to see him come on here and talk about the gym and coaching and his career. He was in Strike Force and Elite XC and IFL and had some really big wars out there that you can check out if you haven't seen him. And yeah, I think that it would be a really interesting conversation. So I look forward to listening to it anyway.
All right. As long as you help me get them on there, we'll make it happen.
I will.
Any last things you want to say to all your fans out there?
Just thank you so much for the support and, if you believe it, if you dream it, you can do it. Just persistence, consistency over time equals results.
Ooh, that's another
So,
thing that I was going to get into was your tattoos, but I think we ran out of time kind of.
all good.
We'll do it some other time.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
Anyways,
Thank you. Of
Heather Clark, thank you for your time.
course, man. Good luck with this, and hope it becomes everything you dreamt.
Thank you.
All right. Talk to you soon.